Hello, welcome back. This is Professor Zayed. Today we're going to be talking about a chapter called Securing Computers, or topic Securing Computers. This topic or chapter can be used for CompTIA A plus practice exams and also for data privacy purposes. So if you're interested in data privacy or how to protect your data and your computer and secure your computer, this is a good topic to listen to. So people or hackers actually uh, all the time try to access your PC, take your data, your personal data, steal it, or so these are some of the issues that you will face with security, but there are other issues as well, like physical hardware can be stolen or damaged, and the damage can be intentional or unintentional. So you need to understand the threats and the steps that you can take to save your protect your computer and save your data. So the first thing we're going to be talking about, we're going to analyze the threats. So what are some of the threats? Threats can come from accidents or malicious people. So when we talk about accidents, we're talking about things like environmental threats, your hard drive crashes, and so on and so forth. Malicious people are people who are trying to do harm, try to steal your information, install a virus on your computer, and so on. So users might get access to a folder or files that they should not see. So if you work in an organization and there are limitations, permissions set on files and folders, private information, private data. So this could be happen accidentally. So if you work in IT, you have to pay a close attention to this. There are also viruses that could delete the data and folders from your computer, and hard drives can become corrupted as well. So there are issues that happens because of social media and hackers and so on. So unauthorized access basically happens because people are curiosity and poor user account management. So people are curious to know what's in those files and folders. They might try to access them and get access to the private information. So you have to pay close attention to that. And poor user account management is basically giving someone access to an account, like an administrator account, for example, which should not have access to that account. So these are some of the risks. Dumpster diving is basically when you search for information through the trash, looking for information. So you have people hackers who go into documentations that you throw in the trash and try to find information from there. Shoulder surfing is also another thing that people go through. Is like someone is standing there looking at your monitor. So how do you protect that information if you work in a public place or a shared space in an organization? So you have to kind of pay attention to that as well. Social engineering is basically using or manipulating people's inside the organization to gather information or obtain access. So hackers, what they do is kind of try to trick people with social engineering, which is basically, for example, making a phone call to a company or trying to pretend to be someone who work at the organization. And classic types of social engineering attacks, you have infiltration, telephone scams, and phishing. Infiltration is basically meaning that when an attacker sneaks into a company building under the guise of illegitimacy, once in, the attacker can gather information by talking to people and observing. So they can pretend to be someone from a different department or from some IT or from another branch in the office branch. So you have to kind of pay close attention to that. Tailgating is basically occurs when someone follows an authorized person through the door to gain access. So you will notice this happens a lot when you are going into a building and someone right behind you, they have a box in their hands, they can't really get in, they can't scan their card. So you kind of feel bad for them, you let them in. So this is something that it's called tailgating. Hackers use that trick. Man trap is basically designed to uh, combat tailgating. So if you do a man trap, it consists of two doors. So you have one, so basically the inner door opens only once the outer door is closed. So an entry control roster is basically managed by a guard. You can have a guard at your building to control access to the building and the floor and so on. So telephone scams basically meaning that a common and simple way to gain information. So one scam is the user calling the help desk to ask for a password reset, a scammer simply needs to know the name of the legitimate user. So this is also could be the other way around, like someone pretending to be from IT. They could call you and ask you to give them their password. So it's a telephone scam. You have to pay attention to that. Phishing is basically a term used to describe using the internet to pretend to be someone you are not in order to obtain information. So spear phishing attacks is basically meaning that you target a specific person, like like maybe a VIP or somebody, the president of the company, and so on. That's spear phishing. Or you can maybe target HR or finance. So these are some of the risks or that you have. And data destruction is basically more than intentional or unintentional erasing of corrupting data. And data destruction can happen from authorized or unauthorized users. So users may be uninformed about the extent to which they are authorized to make changes. So you have to educate the users. You have to do a security awareness training and let them know the risk of clicking on files or folders or clicking on links. So, or how to basically provide access to certain data. If somebody called them and asked them for the data, what are the risks of giving that data to somebody that they do not know? So you have to train them on these things. Administrative access is basically meaning that you have an admin access to a computer or a file or folder or a website. And once you have full control over that access, you basically have access to the full access to the computer. And once you have admin access to the computer, you can do more damage when compromised. So you have to be really careful about the type of access you have. So for example, if I'm logging into this computer with an account, I need to have a standard account for this computer. I should not be logging in with an admin account. I should have maybe a secondary admin account where I can use if I want to log in as an admin to make some changes. But usually the access to the computer, the login, the account, it should be logged in as a standard account. And when user requires administrative access, you should use a strong passwords and practice good physical security. Next thing is we're going to talk about system crash and hardware failure. This is also a risk. We have something we have to analyze. So this happens when an opportune time. It happens in opportune times, the failures. So you could have a hard drive crash, and hard drives do crash over time. You know, they are devices that fail, RAM, hard drives, and so on. So you have a power failure. That's also something you cannot control. Create redundancy in areas prone to failure. So basically meaning that back up your data. So if your hard drive crashes, you have a backup copy of your data. And the best backup rule or method is called a 3-2-1 backup, which basically means that it's a rule that was developed to basically have 3 copies of your data all the time. 2 of those two of the copies of the data can be should be done on 2 different media, and then 1 copy of the data should be offsite in the cloud, for example. So let's say you have 3 copies of your data at your house, and what happened if your house crash, like have a fire or a flood, and all the hard drives fail? So you lose all your data. So you have to have 1 of those data backed up on the cloud, for example, or a different site. So you have to keep a backup copy outside your home or outside your location, so you can always have a redundancy. And physical theft and malware, the best network software security measures are useless if the system is not physically protected. So let's say you have a data, you have a strong password on your laptop, and someone steals your laptop. They can take the hard drive out of your laptop, and they can connect it to another computer, and they can get the data. But you need to physically protect your assets and your computers and then your devices. And then malware presents a threat. So networks are efficient vehicle for transmitting viruses. So in addition to internet attacks, users' optical disks, USB drives are sources of malicious software attacks. So you need to be careful about the devices that you plug into your computer, like a USB flash drive. If you find one sitting somewhere in a parking lot, do not pick it up and plug it into your computer. Hackers use this trick to put a malware on that flash drive, and once you plug it into your computer, they have a malware installed on your computer. So you have to be really careful about this. Other things you can do is have a strong password, encrypt your data, and be careful what you click on, what sites you click on, and what downloads, what files you click on when you get them in an email. So you have to be really careful about these things. These are some of the things you can do to protect your data, for securing your data and securing your computer. Run Windows updates regularly. If you have a Windows machine, update your software and things like that. Have strong password. Do a two-factor authentication, which allows you to protect your accounts, especially if you have an account over the cloud, for example, Google or Facebook or anything like that, or your bank account should implement a two-factor authentication to protect your accounts. And see, these are some of the things that you can take, some of the things you can do to protect your assets, your data, your privacy, and then your computers. Hopefully this is helpful to you, and I'm going to be posting more about this in privacy. So thank you so much for joining, and I'll see you next time. And again, this is Professor Zayed. My website is professorzayed.net or professorzayed.com. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel for future videos. And my business website is aspiretechnj.com. Thank you. Bye-bye.